Okay, you guys, welcome in. When I tell you I get excited about people coming in, my brain is just exploded because Carrie Simmons is here. Carrie, welcome in, first of all.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
Oh my gosh. I thank you for being here. So, whether you're watching this or listening to this, I believe you are one of the most modest human beings that I know. Okay. Like, I'll go look at your Instagram and everybody got to get on there. I'll put the information down, but it's Carrie underscore A underscore Sim. And what you like to call yourself is a wife, which I know
Mhm,
you are, a cat mom,
mhm.
which I
Cat
love,
mom.
and just a little thing called a fitness enthusiast, a little bit. Okay. Okay.
Just a
Carrie,
little bit.
we're a little bit more than that. So that's what we're going to talk about today is just how enthralled I am with you. Not to make it about me before we get you started here, but we would go to Gold's Gym and I'd come in and Gold's Gym in Venice, it's the Mecca. We lived in Cali and I'd always see you from afar and I was like, "Oh my God, she is the woman that you want to get behind on the treadmill. You're the woman that you want to get behind in the gym and just like watch what you do because you just have a glow about you. You don't have this attitude, but you're just so fierce and it's just so enthralling to me. So hello. Is that I'll stop just gushing over you, but I can't wait for you to just start allowing me to start shutting up and letting you talk. So,
Yeah,
okay, Carrie.
yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, I like to call myself a fitness enthusiast. Fitness and health has been my lifestyle since what? Good Lord. I started working out in like 1992 or something like that when I was in college. And I just got into bodybuilding and fitness. I was dating a guy who was a bodybuilder because, of course, that's how everything starts. Um, and I started going to the gym with him and I loved it. I fell in love with the gym. Started learning about nutrition, just the whole everything it encompassed, health and fitness lifestyle. And eventually, of course, decided, oh, I'm gonna, try this competition thing because again, that's like what we all do. It's my lifestyle. And I love the gym, will always go to the gym. But, my, I guess, timeline with all of this has evolved. It all kind of started off as wanting to, look better and get a little muscular, get nicer legs, all of that good stuff that comes with like starting off going to the gym. But as we kind of go down a road, like where I am now in life, my mid 50s, it's about being healthy and living the best life that I can. And I just feel that health and nutrition is like it's your foundation of everything.
Absolutely. So let me backtrack before we move forward. Were you an athlete growing up? Were you a
Oh,
heavy
oh,
kid?
Lord. Well, no, I was a skinny little kid. I was a skinny little kid who played the violin. Okay.
It's that is so cool.
Yeah. So I was not athletic at all. So when this whole gym stuff came about, anyone that knew me, like back in high school and even my parents, they're like, Jim, what? You're doing what? Wait, you're like the clumsiest child on the planet. And I had no background. I didn't do any type of like dance or anything as a child. Like I said, I played violin. I started playing violin when I was like what, 8 years old. So I was this skinny little kid, with, glasses, orthopedic shoes, and a violin.
Okay, wait a second. So when you were on stage, you are so dynamic and you got your routines. I just thought you were in dance since you were born. What was it like to go from not being in the gym at all, going to the gym and then saying, I'm going to go on the stage in a bikini and compete and dance? What is
Yeah.
that? What are
It
those
was okay.
steps?
Well, that was the thing. So when I decided this, competition route, back in when was my first contest? I want to say what was it? I think 98, 97, 98 was my first competition. And back then the divisions were for women. It was either female bodybuilding or fitness. Okay. We didn't have figure, we didn't have women's physique, there was no bikini. Now you had a choice. It was either bodybuilding or fitness. At the time, I was, I'm only 5'4", and I think I may have weighed 110 pounds soaking wet at the time. So bodybuilding was not in the cards. And this fitness thing was interesting because the girls were just beautiful at the time. Thinking of the ones that inspired me were like the Trish Stratuses, Madonna Grimes, like they were gorgeous girls with muscle, not like overly muscular like what I felt at the time some of the women bodybuilders were, which I didn't that wasn't the road I wanted to go down. And I was like, wow, but they dance and they have these gymnastic routines. And I'm like, I'm not a gymnast, what am I going to do? And now I need a routine. I know I loved the entertainment factor with the fitness routines because it was artistic to some degree. So, and having that background of, music and art, I was like, okay, this is cool. I can get behind this creativity. So I always like to bring in, if you look at some of my routines, I guess throughout my career, they were, a little more creative, artistic, to makeup, hair, because, that's what I like. So it was another way of expressing myself, and I thought that it was great. So I went on down this road, and I found someone who did, sport aerobics at the time. So I had her help me with a routine, and I was like, "All right, I'm here. I got a routine. I got this really cool outfit." It was like red, white, and blue with gold, which I was so excited about. And I went on out on stage and was hooked on it. I was hooked
You just get
on the
that
performance.
adrenaline,
Yes.
you just got the adrenaline ru and you're like, "Oh my gosh." You're
Yeah,
even
I loved performing, and that I think, again, translated from, me playing violin, performing in orchestras and quartets and things like that growing up. So I just had a performance. I had this thing I loved performing, so
but you were clothed on
I
you're not but y your body is spectacular regardless, like, there's a for people that don't know competitions, like, there's judges, and then there's
Yeah.
room full of people, and did you start, like, in the small little rooms first? Like,
Yeah, of
you
course, of
start
course.
grand oh, great, but you have to really work your way up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I started in the regional level, um, and then I eventually met some girls who were national level and pro, fitness competitors. And I was like, "All right, I think I can do this," you know? And again, it was just a hobby. It was just a hobby at the time. And again, I knew I'm always gonna work out. Love the gym. Like I said, I'll be 90 years old. My dying day, I'll be like at the gym training legs. And so I knew that that was always gonna be, that's always gonna be a part. But like I said, I just loved the entertainment. I love the performance aspect of it. So I just kind of kept going with it, pushing it further and further. Then I did a nationals. And I was like, all right, and I placed horribly because everyone does it their first nationals. But I didn't let it deter me because it was something that I truly enjoyed. And I think if you're doing something for yourself that you genuinely enjoy, then, if I'm placing dead last, as long as I'm having fun, it's I'm alright. And then eventually I started placing better, which was good, and then, in what was it? 2010, I turned pro in fitness, and that was after, my moving out to California, just and then getting into because was originally in, Philadelphia. That when I started competing early on in '97, and then moved out to LA in '08 after meeting Michael and getting into the whole Gold's Gym scene, and that was the other thing too, because being in LA, like Gold's Gym, like the Mecca.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Were the women nice to you? I always get interested with, like,
Mhm.
competition. Like, Were they nice to you? Do they do the shady stuff that they do with the dresses with Miss America and hide them, or you
You
just know how to stay away? Because you guys are dieting too, so this is like
So we've got
diet and
that.
hungry.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, no, I have to say, honestly, the majority of my competition career, I would have to say, like, it was enjoyable with the girls, especially with fitness competitors. And this is one of those things where, or like I said, early on, there were only the two divisions, but then later it evolved and then they added in figure, which was just the physique portion of fitness without a routine. So you were judged solely on your physique, but they were looking for less muscular women than the bodybuilders. And then eventually they added in, bikini and what is it now? Women's physique and wellness. Like there's a whole bunch. But the fitness girls, there is just there's a sisterhood and a camaraderie with that division. Even to this day, like I haven't competed since 20 what was it, 2014, I wanna say, was my last competition, and I'm still in touch with the fitness competitors. We've got our Facebook group. When there's a big show coming up and girls who are qualified, like, we're supporting each other still. It's Fitness has always had that kind of special sisterhood because there were so few of us once they started adding in all of the different divisions. So you didn't have to do a routine, which let me tell you, you're dieting for a show. And so, I mean, you know what the dieting part is like and what the
Not
work.
like you, but I've watched it.
Right,
So
you've
yeah,
seen it.
watched it my whole
Now
life. Yeah.
add in having to perform on
Yeah.
top of that.
Oh,
So fitness competitors are just a different breed,
yeah.
and I'll go to my grave saying that we're the toughest out of
You
all of
are.
them.
You are for sure. For sure. What was that moment that you knew it was your last competition in 2014 and why?
When I got to a point that I wasn't enjoying it,
Mm.
you know? I had switched, so let's see, I got my card in 2010 in fitness. I competed in 2 or 3, I can't remember, it's so bad, I'm getting old.
No, you're not. Anybody not watching this, we're looking at you're talking about the 90s and you look like you were born like 20 years ago, okay?
I I did 3, I think it was 3 pro shows for fitness, and then they introduced women's physique, um, which was supposed to be when it was originally introduced, was gonna be, like, for the more muscular fitness competitors and the smaller bodybuilders. That was the type it was kind of an in between, physique that they were going for. And at the time, I was one of the more muscular fitness competitors. So I was like, you know what? I'll give this a go. And I did it because at the time, the show that I decided to do was one of the shows by Muscle Contests, and it was held in Culver City, which in LA
Mhm.
was literally I could walk from my house. So I was like, all right. I mean, it's right there. It's right up the street. I don't have to no travel, no, some of the stuff that's really stressful when you're, competing. I didn't have to do. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a go, see how it goes. And I did really well. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I don't have to kill myself with this routine. But it was funny because I was still performing at the time. I was one of the things when I was in LA, because again, my love of performance and things like that, I actually was a circus performer for quite a bit. I did aerial.
What? We'll
Yeah.
get into that but oh my gosh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
so I did, trapeze and rope and the, silks. So, I was performing and I've done oh my gosh, I did the Grammys one year or the Grammys, BET Awards, did different things around LA, different nightclubs. I was always, like, performing in West Hollywood at, like, some clubs.
Amazing. Oh my
And
god.
so I was, I was kind of fulfilling my performance love that way. So I was like, all right, I don't mind not doing this routine, but there's still, there's the posing routine for women's physique. So I still, I got to get out there on stage and do my thing. But I was doing really well in it at the time. And I was like, all right, so I did a few women's physique shows. And then like I said, in 24 I'm pretty sure it's 2014, it was my last one. I was just kinda getting to a point where I wasn't like I said, I wasn't enjoying it anymore. The criteria was starting to change. They were going back for, like, the much bigger, harder girls. And, one of the shows, I think it was 2013 I did, it was the was it the San Jose? It was a San Jose Pro, and that was actually a really fun show because Michael competed, and he did the amateur bodybuilding, and we both got second, and it was hysterical. It was like we can't win, but we both got second. We're good. But I was so much more worried about him competing, and I totally was not stressing about myself, which was great. It was the first time I wasn't stressed about a show. But, I was like, I asked the judges afterwards, I was like, "Well, what could I do to win this?" Because, getting second is great. Getting second is great, but it didn't qualify me for the Olympia, which, is pretty much ultimately every pro, competitor's goal is to qualify for the Olympia. And I didn't know what else I could do. And I asked, and they were like, "Oh, if you could just come in a little bit harder." And I'm like, "No, I can't." Like, I physically cannot. We all know in this sport that there are certain things that some of the girls will do, and I just wasn't willing to kind of push that extra or do anything that I wasn't comfortable doing to attain something that I was starting to feel like, "Okay, this isn't me anymore."
No, I respect that so much. What now, we're talking about the 90s and even 2014. If it was you now when you were competing, you can get online and you can do all of this and you can make tons of money and go on OnlyFans. But back
Right.
then, it's like, talk to me about, did you have to have a full-time job as
Girl, yeah,
well?
I've had a
Think you
full-time
would just
job.
bodybuild all day. People just think that's all you do is eat and that you just get paid for that. But no,
Right, I wish. Oh
right?
my god. Yeah,
Right?
no, I had a full-time job, I was working I've been, my real job at that time, I was, a graphic designer. I was a creative director for a company in LA, and, it was a skincare, personal health manufacturer, and I was their creative director. So I had a full-time job managing my staff and, doing
And
all of
working out and
yeah,
eating, oh my gosh, and then paying for your travel to go compete, paying for the competition to people just don't realize this,
yeah,
they
yeah,
think.
that's
Yeah.
why it's one of those things, like, you've gotta be loving it, and like I said, I was loving it, and then when I wasn't, I was like, "Alright, well, I'm
Yeah.
over this now," you know?
Okay, so we've done all that we can do, and I do see because another thing I'm gonna just personally say, watching, my father being a bodybuilder all these
Mhm.
decades is there it is a sport, but it's a judged sport.
Yes.
And everybody wants it's not like you take the ball and you throw it through the hoop and you're like, "Oh,
Right.
that's a sport." It's like they
Right.
have their own inside of what they want, and but I
Right.
really love that you loved yourself enough to go, got it. Like, I asked what I could do. This is just what the narrative is now, and then I have to just keep moving forward as opposed to possibly getting on a lot of drugs, a lot of
Right.
things that I've watched a lot of women do to get to
Right.
the Olympia, and they're not feminine anymore. Their voice changes, their bodies and I've met
And that
without
stuff
naming
can't
so many.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't come back from some of that, and I always again, because of having to have a real job, know, I'm like, there's, like, certain things I'm like, I can't, I can't do that. I can't show up, looking like that, like at a meeting or yeah, I couldn't, and I just wasn't comfortable with it. So yeah, so I was like, "All right, well, that's that. I've had fun."
Okay, and
On
then
to the next adventure.
tell me what that was. So you're done, you're still doing aerial, and then what was the next thing that you decided
So
to
then
go?
my next adventure
I
was
love these.
actually competitive pole dancing.
Okay, I already knew this, but this is why I'm so excited about this. Oh my god, everybody, the respect I have. Oh my gosh, talk to me about that. Were you
Yeah,
just great when you got on it because you're so athletic?
it was a little more natural than if I'd never done anything before, but I mean it's a whole different discipline. So when I was doing aerial, I was also coaching. I did conditioning classes because that's my thing, is getting people in shape to do whatever it is in life that they're trying to achieve. I'll get you in shape for that. And so I had some pole dancers come to my conditioning class, and they're telling me about this, and it was one of those things where it was weird, like, because in everyone, and I have no problem with the roots of pole dancing. We all know what those roots are,
Yeah.
I have no problem with any of that. I have mad respect for the girls that came before me. Um but I was just kind of interested in, like, I was like, all right, what happens in this? And they're telling me, like, I'm like, wait, I'm hearing routine and costumes. Okay. I'm in. I'm in. I was fortunate being in Los Angeles because LA's got everything. LA's got studios galore. I found a studio that was close to the house. Um, and I went and, took this pole class, and I was like, all right, this is pretty cool. And again, much like everything with me, I don't know how to do anything like just halfway. I'm like, all right, I'm all in on this. And so I just started going. I attended classes. I did everything I would have done for when I did fitness and bodybuilding. You get, whether it's a coach or a personal trainer, someone kind of helping you out to guide you. Um, I was taking lessons, and then again, I decided, I was like, all right, I'm gonna try a competition and see how this goes.
I love it. You're so bright. How is the culture different from fitness, and then pole or
It is different because the pole community, and I think both are good, but I think the pole community is a little more um accepting of different body types, because again, there any of the competition stuff, it is based on your routine, skill level. There are certain moves within your skill level, things like that. And there is no physique aspect of it. So obviously in fitness, I mean, it's physique, that's half your score is how you look.
yeah. Did you have to now, are there people that are heavier or leaner, or is it you have a lot of muscle? Is it harder to pull yourself up? Like, have you been surprised by some body types that
Well,
do
yeah,
really
yeah, I'm
well?
definitely I'm constantly surprised by some body types. I feel that, obviously in my case, the muscle helped me because I was strong, but then it also worked against me because I'm so used to just muscling through certain things. And sometimes you just use, and pull, depending on what moves you're doing. It's a little more graceful, it's a little more momentum, things like that. Whereas, with bodybuilding or anything gym like, you're like strength, okay? It's not, you're muscling through whatever. You're not just kind of flowing through it. So it's been fun kind of doing things a little bit differently. And yeah.
That's awesome. You just never stop. Where did you get this drive to just stay consistent? Because I think that's why you look so good. I feel like you're such a good person. My mom always used to say that woman's beautiful, but her insides are showing because she's an ass bitch. You know what I mean? So what made you stay on this track? Because some people, I've watched a lot of athletes, I've watched a lot of bodybuilders, fitness. They go off the rails. Like they just don't stay consistent. And talk to me about consistency with you.
Honestly, I have to say, yeah, my mother growing up, it started with violin, I wanted to do this. I came home one day and I'm like, "Oh, mom, I want to learn the violin." Because every kid, comes home with whatever new thing and they're going to do. And so I started. And then, of course, a few weeks in, I was like, "Oh, I'm not really sure about this. I'm going to move on to something else." And my mother's like, "No, You made this decision, you signed up. We're gonna you're gonna follow through. Just hang in there. And I forget exactly like how long she kind of asked me to hang in there. And by time I reached the end of that point, I was enjoying it. And so I have come to realize that like in life with pretty much anything, you start something and it's not, I mean, obviously there are things where if you realize immediately it's not for you, it's not the right fit, if it's harming you, obviously you stop. But in certain things, just being able to just push through and finish what you started, Just like with going to the gym, like I go obnoxiously early in the morning and everyone's like, "Oh, how do you do it?" I'm like, "You just do it." It sucks for a couple weeks. It's not fun, with the first few weeks. It's dark, it's cold out, but then, like, a couple weeks in, you're like, "All right, I'm good with this, and I like it, I'm getting it done," and then you see the benefit. You see is early morning trainings, I'm getting it done before anything can disrupt me because, if you try to save it sometimes for later in the day, it doesn't get done.
Mhm. No kidding. Yeah. So you stay consistent through that. And what about, were there times where you're just like taking a break from training, or is it truly just your therapy, your life?
I have to say it's truly my therapy, but like with anything, there are breaks because life happens. And as I, got a little bit older, it's that realizing life happens. It's not the end of the world. If I miss a workout, yeah, I'm gonna get it done. I'll figure it out. But it is not the end of my world. But if you are, just like with even diet and if you're good 80% of the time, 20% that may not be perfect, that gets messed up because, you wind up skipping a meal because you got to take a call or whatever, you're still so much better because of that 80%.
Exactly. So, okay, so we all get older. It's a gift, right? We're getting older and aging. So, do you
Yeah.
have women come to you? Tell me what, that's what I'm so excited to talk to you about today, because where are you at? Because a lot of women I'm watching, a lot of women get older. They're going, dare us talk about menopause. I love that it's no longer taboo. I love that.
Same here. Same here. Thank goodness it's not.
I'm so excited to talk to you about it too, and that you're open to it because I'm seeing a lot of women get older. They're not going to the gym as much. They're
Nope.
getting heavier because they're like, you know what, I'm getting heavy no matter what, and
Right.
then they're getting on all the Ozempics and all of
Right.
that. But then they're
Right.
still not dealing with the hormone side of it.
Right. Right.
So tell me what your thoughts are on this because I'm really excited to hear
Well,
this.
okay, so my thoughts are it's a part of life that is, yes, inevitable. It's we're all going to get older. And like you said, it's a blessing to get older. If every morning you wake up is a blessing. But we've been told, women in my age group, a little bit younger, have been told, "Oh, it's just a part of life." Some of the miserableness that comes with this time. Um, it doesn't have to be that way. And I feel that I want to help people understand, A, what's going on with them, B, how to combat some of it, how to, talk to your doctor about what's going on, how to have those difficult conversations, how to decipher your health insurance, and what it actually covers and can help you with.
You could like you're a consultant. So like if a woman comes to you after, most doctors will go to them and say, "Well, you're off
Mhm.
to Valhalla. You're just going to have to be heavy, extra sweet to your husband even though you hate the way he chews because you're 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 going through menopause and everything annoys you." And
Right,
so and you have insurance, but these doctors will just say, "Okay, well, good luck." So you're the person that comes in
right.
and
And
works.
I look at it from the standpoint of I want to live I personally wanna live a healthy and enjoyable old age. I wanna be able to get around. I wanna still be able to I know it's not gonna be deadlifting 315. I know that's not going to be in the cards, but I want to be able to, if I sit down on the floor, I want to be able to get back up without a problem, so I have started to look at things as living a healthy lifestyle and wanting to, in my older age, be in a place that's just not depressing. It breaks my heart when I think of, having watched what my mother went through. And, you and I have had these conversations about, our mothers and their situations. And, to know that a lot of the issues that women face, whether it's, elevated cholesterol, high hemoglobin A1C, dementia, osteoporosis, a lot of this can be avoided if they are supplementing estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And it's not I don't want to say it's a push for, any type of any drug use. But you're treating a deficiency, in my opinion. Okay. If I had an issue with thyroid, if I had Hashimoto's disease or something, they give me what it's Cytomel or Synthroid, whichever one it is the doctor would, prescribe. Um, if I have diabetes, my pancreas is no longer producing insulin. They give me insulin. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll do that, you know?
Yeah.
So the need for estrogen is there. I guess what the last few years when men's clinics started, taking off because we all know, God forbid, man's testosterone drops. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, men's clinics are on like every corner,
Right. Like the men's bathrooms are always right there. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Right. They're getting treatment, but, women aren't getting treatment because of a flawed study that was done. They're coming out now, doctors know that this is flawed, but th they're not doing anything. Doctors don't get education in menopause. The most they'll get is 2-hour mention, if that, which, I talked to my own primary care physician. She's like, "Yeah, I think I got 20 minutes."
Wow.
Yeah, so they're
Crazy.
not right. The science shows that the decline in estrogen is linked to, like I said, osteoporosis, dementia, your A1C, your hemoglobin A1C, which is gonna take you into diabetes, which we all know is like one of the worst metabolic disease. It just what it does to your body. So if you can avoid all of that, then why not?
Well, I think people want to, but they need someone like you that can go step by step because I see a lot of people paying out of pocket when possibly when
Yes.
the insurance world, like it's like, how do you start? How do you begin when your doctor is like, well, this is it, and you're going to be a mega bitch for like the next 20 years, and your hair's falling
Right.
out your skin, and yeah,
Yeah. And I tell people all the time, I want to give people the education that I wish I had gotten. I went through so many things and especially being a healthy person. So that's the other thing is that my whole, like I said, since the 90s, health, I've been worried about what I put in my mouth, all the exercise that I get. And to, reach an age where then you start to see, here's my LDL climbing, no matter what my diet is. I've had the same diet since 1994, and I'm getting a speech from my primary care physician like, "Oh, you've got to do something about this. It's getting out of hand." And I'm like, "Dude, like I'm like, yeah, dude. If
yeah.
you saw how I ate, like, and I pulled out, like, I was, telling a story. I had this doctor in LA, and I went to 1 year for my exam, and it was like maybe at like 150 or something, my cholesterol, which is, on a higher end. Then the next year, I come back and it's like 170 something. I literally haven't changed one thing. And he's giving me the whole speech about diet. Meanwhile, this is a dude who like should not have been talking to anyone about
My
diet,
favorite. My favorite. Yep. I know.
so I was just like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "Look," I was like, and I'm insane because I love data and I track everything because that's just my personality. So I pulled out my Fitness Pal. I'm like, "This is what I eat. You can see, like, there's nothing in here that's bad." And then he's like, "Oh, well, maybe then we were dealing with a genetic thing or something." And he's like, "We can get you started on a statin." I'm like, "Oh, no, we will not."
Oh
You're
boy.
Yeah. So when you start to see, like, okay, your doctor's not working with you, then maybe it's time to see another doctor. And I feel that some people, most people, they're like, "Oh, well, my doctor said no." And I'm like, "Okay, well, then why don't you see another doctor?"
Yeah.
Because if you go to a restaurant and they tell you, no, you can't have meatloaf, even though it's right there on the menu, you're like, all right, I'm going to go to another restaurant.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so it's hard. And to try to, I want to help as many women as I can understand, like, you don't have to do it this way, giving them options, letting them know what's available, giving them education that they're not getting.
Absolutely. So what did you do? Was it a lot of what's the next doctor? Because I just watch a lot of women just throw up their hands. Like, and it doesn't I feel personally that you would be a much better sounding board than a male doctor that's
Mhm,
or a doctor that's, younger and had 20 minutes of insight about
mhm.
menopause. It's kind of like me going to a young therapist. I'm like, no, give me an old, jaded human that's seen it all. I don't care if it's just a woman on the street and she doesn't have a degree. I just want some life experience here, you
Yeah.
know?
I feel they were things that were life changing for me. And if I can share that with somebody and help them not have to just deal with the difficulty. Um, I had a lot happen. I had a brother pass away. I had my mother have a stroke, all like in like a very tight timeline. And I also lost my best friend who was 53 at the time. And I'm going through all of this. So we've got these stressors over here. Started having hot flashes. So I'm losing my mind. Um, and not understanding, being told again that this is just a part of life. These are the things that happen. And I just refused to take that as an answer. And so I just started doing a lot of research, and reading, listening to a bunch of doctors and just learning and listening and finding out about some of this stuff that might be available. And then going down the route of, okay, well, if this doctor here won't talk to me, then I'm going to change doctors and I'm going to see if this one does. And if this one doesn't, then you know what? I'm going to change doctors again because I feel that a lot of times women, especially in this age group, are either overlooked or called whiny women because you complain or you speak up about something.
Mhm.
And you know me, I speak up.
Love it. Yes. I love it.
And so that's one of those things where if you can help give a woman the confidence, here are some tools. Here's a few labs you might want to have your doctor take a look at that are important at this point in time. Education.
Well, and
If
you're so great too, because if someone comes to you, you could put the fitness component to
Yes,
it and the eating and the what works for because it's gonna be the next chapter of
it
lifestyle.
is.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the thing is that it's also not a one size fits all solution. Each woman is different. Each woman has her own path. Each woman has her own things to deal with. You might get someone who comes to me who has never set foot in a gym before. I might get someone who's like me, has been in a gym since the 90s. So it's looking at all of the factors, looking at their life as a whole, what they do for work, what they have to do at home with their children and their husbands, and figuring out solutions that will work for them, coming up with questions because again, I'm not a healthcare provider, so I can't rate a prescription, but I can sure enough educate you on what is available, what you can ask for. I can show you studies that have been done, seeing things like cognitive decline without estrogen versus with. And I see, one of the biggest things with that, and I think where I got to in my life going from this competitor lifestyle over here to wanting to live healthily and longevity was seeing my mother just decline. And it's interesting when you look at it because, my mom didn't do HRT. She was of the sh- generation, and in my opinion, was just done the worst because it wasn't even an option.
A
Be
woman of color too, who
exactly,
listened to it back then. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I get
exactly.
no thinking about it. Yeah.
And I just look at, her quality of life towards the end, and I'm like, wow, I do not want that to be me. And then I look at someone like my mother-in-law, who is I love my mother-in-law so much. She is fantastic, this lady is. And she was lucky though, because she's the same age as my mother would have been if my mom's still alive. And she got a doctor he's one of the forerunners of anything with women's health and endocrinology. And he said to her, Juanita, you are going to be on hormones until you die. And she is the most vibrant with it person. This lady is so sharp. And you would not, if you were having a conversation with her, you'd be like, no way is this lady 84 years old. It's no. Gets
I love
around,
that.
lives on her own, drives herself places. Like she is as sharp as a tack.
Because when your hormones are balanced, right, your bones are not gonna become brittle, the osteoporosis
Exactly.
level goes down, and then you don't have the brain fog and the cortisol levels of being stressed all the time, that'll just send
Absolutely.
you over the edge as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And understanding how important things, like diet, nutrition, and sleep are at this point in time.
But isn't it funny though, if you're not balanced with the hormones, you're not sleeping because you're
Right.
waking up with hot flashes, and this is the time you should be having sex off the chandeliers with, no kids, or you're getting older and you should be traveling, but who has the energy for it? Who
Right.
has the drive for it if you're not balanced, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I love this. Would you say before a person comes to you to go to their doctor and see if or is the person coming to you usually weighed all their options? They're just so stuck.
It's a combination. It's a combination of things because some of the women don't know where to start with anything. They know that they're feeling crappy. They know that they used to feel good. They're being dismissed by their doctor, but they're not sure what conversations to have with their doctor. They're not even sure 100% what's going on because there are a lot of myths in this point in time in our lives. We're told that the worst of it is menopause. It's actually the time before because menopause is simply 12 months of not having had your period. That's that's all that means. And at that point, you've balanced out. You're at 0. 0 is a balanced number. You're 0 on everything, okay? That's gonna be your new norm without any type of supplementation. You are at 0. the time before the perimenopause is the roller coaster time. That's when one day your estrogen's high, the next day it's low. It's up and down. You're
Yeah.
pulling your hair out. You're losing your hair because that's what happened to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I'm there. And then I'm like in the Sam I'm in the panini generation of like helping my mother and kids and then a husband and
Right
this
there.
slash and all that. Yeah. And
That
so you
is
put yourself
it.
last.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that has kind of shaped, how I feel about all of this is, I told you my best friend when she passed away when she was 53.
Sorry.
And she had a cardiac event. Okay. Now this girl is was as healthy as any of us. She was a competitor at the gym, doing everything, eating well year round, all kinds. But she was at that age, that panini age, where she had 3 children, one of which was special needs. So she even though they were in their 20s, she still, took care of him. She had parents who both, not 1, but 2, had Alzheimer's and dementia.
Bless
So
her.
she's
Oh
dealing
my
with that.
God.
And then she had a fiancé who was, like, absolutely worthless and
Ugh.
stressing her, and their business was losing money. So it was a lot of and guess what? When your estrogen's dropping and your cortisol is rising and your cholesterol and everything else is out of whack, you're primed for a cardiac event. And women in this age group, their first cardiac event is usually their last because that's it.
Oh.
Women, men in this age group, when they have a cardiac event, it usually survive, but there's a
But they
higher.
go to the hospital right away. These men
Right.
are no
Well,
offense for the most part. They're like, I don't feel good. Let me
right,
go.
right.
And we take care. But us, we're like, oh,
Right,
it's hurting for months. So we're like, you know what I
and
mean? Yeah.
the other thing is that cardiac events, heart attacks, vent differently in women
Right.
than they do men. A lot of times what women get, though, jaw pain. Now, I don't know about you, but my jaw started hurting. First thing I'm thinking is, "Oh, crap, I gotta make a dentist appointment."
1000%. Yeah.
And then you're waiting around for a dentist appointment because you know you're not getting in, like, that week.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you die of a heart attack.
Huh. Interesting. Jaw
Yeah,
pain. See, these are great tips because it's not just like, here's hormones, here's a diet, menopause. It's all the things like looking at
right.
your life. Like you can literally get a blueprint of somebody, and
Mhm.
every body is different.
It's
So,
different.
and
Yep.
I just love it's like going I had a person I was going to for a little bit and they were a trainer, but
Mhm,
because I wanted to learn a little bit different, but they were really overweight. They were not healthy. And I'm like, why am I learning from you? Like you're not
mhm.
practicing what you're preaching. So I love talking to you because you're the epitome of practicing what you preach.
Yeah,
And
I
I love that
because
you're
I
on the
just
other
believe
side.
that is the best example that you can set. Like,
Yep. Yeah.
that is the best example that you can set, and I just feel that it's one of those things where I just wanna share what I know. We've talked, and I'm like, "I love running my mouth about this stuff." Like, I can all day talk
I
about.
love learning. Yeah, and people are so desperate, like they need you. So, okay, Carrie, I'm gonna put all your information down, but
Okay.
is there anything else you wanna say? Because I could keep you forever. Yeah, I could, but, like, I'm so excited to talk to you later more about hormones and
Yeah.
then just sending people your way that just feel so lost because you are older. Because I know some about hormones, but you are, like, on the other side of it at this
Right.
point,
Right.
thriving, which
Right.
is
And
huge.
that's it exactly, exactly, and I love that you just used that term, thriving, because it's the next chapter. This is the next chapter in your life, and you should be enjoying it, and you should be enjoying yourself and feeling good.
Yeah. Yeah.
it's you can, and I just love that I can be an example to show women like, "Hey, you can."
You are a great example. Like, you are just great. I can't thank you. I can't thank you enough. And it seems like you've got a great partner too. I say to people, go look at your partner first before you're dealing with the rest of the stuff and assess
Yeah.
that, because that can be an issue. And I'm
Oh,
so
for
sorry.
sure, for sure. I mean, that's also one of the statistics that they don't talk about is the divorce rate in our age group. Sure, I mean, like, some of it is, you've got a really crappy partner, but some of it is, like, the way you are changing and not knowing exactly what's going on, why you're snappier, why you feel like crap, why you've got the AC on in the dead of winter because you're sweating your ass off?
And ways to talk to your partner. And,
Yes.
like, I'm sure, you could be helpful with that. I try to tell women too, it's like, these men don't understand. Like, there a lot
Mhm.
of them, and a lot of them will be willing if you can
Yes.
have that conversation, what to say to your doctor. There can be a lot of pride for women, but I'm like, at what cost? You just
Right,
being miserable all the time? Like, let's
right.
shout it out, and just say, "Hey, I'm going through the big change."
And
You
that's
have
why
to.
I love the fact that, some of the stigma that's been attached to it is it's starting to lose it, and I think that that is fantastic because, I look back and again, I go back to my mom and I think of, when she started having, hot flashes and stuff. And, we're kids. We don't know anything. We're like laughing. Oh, look, mommy's sweating in the dead of winter. Like, oh my gosh, I wish my mom were alive so I could apologize for being such a little pain in the butt?
She had to just what? She lived through it's like all these women that just lived through
Yeah,
and for just a
yeah,
decade even, I've seen some
yeah,
it's wild.
yeah,
Yeah.
she lived through that, and, I look at her her decline at the end with dementia, and there is a huge, huge link between the lack of estrogen and Alzheimer's and dementia.
And then the sugar cravings, because your cortisol's high, we gotta get that down, so to balance it, people love sugar, and that's one of the
Right.
worst things you can do as you get older is
Yep.
just the sugar with dementia, it just feeds
Yes.
it. Yeah, so
Yep.
all of that science, you know all about. So, oh, Carrie, oh my gosh, I can't wait. I'm gonna have you on again just to talk about anything, but this one, thank
Yeah,
you for
I will
educating.
come back anytime. I've truly enjoyed this.
Oh, I'm such a fan of yours, and I just thank you for being such a great example of consistency, a woman that is happy from the inside out and just lives your truth and honest. I love how
Yeah.
honest you are. Yeah, and how helpful you can be for others. Everybody come see Carrie. Phone call away, and you work with people all over the country.
All over the country.
Mhm.
They can I
Yeah.
mean, if you're not sure about anything, book a 15-minute consult. It's free. I can talk to you, guide you into what could possibly be the next step, and see if we're a good fit to work together. Because again, it's individual. I might be great for some, I might not be someone else's cup of tea. Who knows? But you can just get that free 15-minute call and get the ball rolling.
What are we waiting for? Get
Right.
the ball, because if you have the symptoms of anything we just talked about, call Carrie. Like, just get the
Mhm.
ball rolling. Well, thank you, and we will talk soon. You are the best.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.